The scent of smoke hit Ayana before she even saw the flames. She had been walking home from her late-night shift at the diner when the acrid smell invaded her senses. Her heart pounded as she turned a corner onto Maple Street and saw the old Victorian house engulfed in an orange glow. Thick, black smoke curled into the night sky, the flames licking at the wooden frame, threatening to consume everything in their path. Ayana didn't think. She acted. She sprinted across the yard, her sneakers skidding against the damp grass as she heard a weak, hoarse cry from inside. Without hesitation, she threw her shoulder against the heavy front door. It groaned, resisting, before finally giving way under the force. Inside, the heat wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket, and the crackling fire roared like a living beast, consuming everything in sight. "Hello? Is someone in here?" she yelled, coughing as smoke burned her lungs. A rasping voice answered from upstairs, barely audible over the fire's deafening growl. Help!" She found him in the hallway, struggling to move, a frail old man with hollow cheeks and sunken eyes, wearing a silk robe that seemed oddly out of place in the inferno. He looked at her with a mixture of relief and something else, something darker, unreadable. Ayana grabbed his arm, pulling him up with strength she didn't know she had. "Come on, we have to get out of here," she urged. His gaze lingered on her, almost as if he were committing her face to memory. Then, with surprising agility for a man his age, he allowed her to lead him down the burning staircase. The flames roared around them, biting at the walls, the floorboards moaning beneath their feet. Just as they reached the door, the ceiling gave a terrible groan, and a beam crashed down, missing them by inches. Ayana dragged him onto the porch, gasping for clean air. The moment they were clear, the house gave in to the fire's wrath, collapsing inward with a monstrous roar. The old man wheezed beside her, gripping her wrist with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "You saved me," he whispered, his fingers like iron clamps around her skin. "I owe you, but you should have let me burn." Ayana frowned, staring at him. His eyes, pale and glassy, held something beyond fear. It was as if he had escaped one horror only to step into another. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the sirens wailed in the distance, the flashing lights reflecting in his eerie gaze, and then, just as suddenly as she had found him, he let go and slumped against the grass, unconscious. The next morning, Ayana woke to the sound of knocking. Sharp. Precise. Unrelenting. She groggily stumbled to the door, still exhausted from the night before. She hadn't told her mother much, just that she had helped a man escape a fire. The authorities had taken him to the hospital, and she had assumed that was the end of it. She was wrong. When she opened the door, 3 men in crisp suits stood on her porch. Their presence was unnatural, as if they had materialized out of thin air. The one in the center, tall and gaunt, removed his dark glasses and offered a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Ayana Brooks," she hesitated. "Yes, we represent Mr. Leclerc. The man you saved last night. He wishes to speak with you." Ayana's stomach twisted. Something about their presence felt wrong. "Is he okay?" "Quite well," the man assured her. "He insisted we come. He has something important to discuss." Her instincts screamed at her to refuse, to slam the door, but her curiosity burned brighter than her fear. Against her better judgment, she nodded slowly. "Okay. Where is he?" The man's smile widened just a fraction. "He's waiting for you." The other 2 men stepped aside, revealing a sleek black car parked at the curb. The back window was tinted, but she could feel eyes on her. Ayana swallowed hard, and then, before she could change her mind, she stepped forward. The interior of the car smelled like polished leather and something faintly metallic, like old coins. Ayana sat stiffly, her fingers gripping the edge of the seat as the men closed the door behind her. The moment it shut, the temperature seemed to drop. Across from her sat Mr. Leclerc. Despite having been pulled from a burning house just hours ago, he looked untouched. His silk robe had been replaced with an impeccably tailored black suit, his skin pale and smooth, as if he had never inhaled a single breath of smoke. His eyes, his skin pale and smooth, as if he had never inhaled a single breath of smoke. His eyes, however, were the same, unsettling, knowing. "Miss Brooks," he greeted, his voice silky and measured. "I must thank you again for saving me." Ayanna shifted uncomfortably. "You already did, yes." He steepled his fingers. "But gratitude is not enough. I owe you a debt. And I intend to repay it," she frowned. "That's really not necessary, it is." His tone left no room for argument. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thin, cream-colored envelope, sliding it across the seat toward her. "Inside is a contract. A simple arrangement. I wish to give you something in return for your kindness." Ayanna hesitated before picking up the envelope. The paper was thick, expensive, and embossed with an unfamiliar insignia, a serpent coiled around an hourglass. A strange chill ran down her spine. "What kind of contract?" she asked. Her voice wary, Leclerc's lips curled into a smile, but there was something predatory about it. "One that ensures your life will change forever." Ayanna's fingers trembled slightly as she lifted the flap. Inside, in elegant script, was a single sentence: "By accepting this agreement, you consent to receive what is owed." No fine print. No legal jargon. Just that one ominous line. She looked up. "What does this mean?" Leclerc leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "It means that in 24 hours, everything you know will be different. And you will understand why you should have let me burn." The car suddenly felt smaller, the air thick with an unspoken menace. Ayanna's instincts screamed at her to get out, to run, but her hands remained frozen on the envelope. "Do you accept?" Leclerc asked, his voice almost hypnotic. Ayanna opened her mouth to speak, but the car door unlocked with a soft click, and before she could think, she was stumbling out onto the pavement, gasping as if she had surfaced from deep underwater. The car door slammed shut behind her. The tinted window rolled down just enough for Leclerc's voice to whisper through, "See you soon, Miss Brooks," and then, the car disappeared into the morning mist. Ayanna stood frozen on the sidewalk, her breath unsteady. The weight of the envelope still lingered in her hands, though she had let it fall to the ground. A storm of thoughts whirled in her mind. What had she just been offered? And why did she feel like she had just escaped something far worse than a burning house? The next evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ayanna felt an unease creeping into her bones. She had tried to dismiss it, to pretend that everything was normal, but something was wrong. Shadows stretched longer than they should. Her reflection in the mirror lingered a second too long when she turned away, and then, as the clock struck midnight, the knocking returned. Slow. Hollow. Unforgiving. She swallowed hard, knowing, somehow, that Mr. Leclerc had come to collect his debt. The knocking was relentless. Ayanna stood frozen, her breath shallow as she stared at the door. She knew, that whatever was on the other side wasn't something she could turn away. She opened the door. Mr. Leclerc stood there, pristine as ever, his suit smooth and his pale hands folded neatly in front of him. But there was something different in his eyes. They weren't just cold anymore, they were hungry. "You accepted the contract," he said softly. "It's time to pay." Ayanna's pulse pounded. "I don't understand," she whispered. Leclerc smiled, stepping forward. "Oh, but you will." The shadows in the room stretched unnaturally as he entered, swallowing the light. The walls groaned, the air thickening with an unnatural weight. Her mother, who had been asleep down the hall, suddenly appeared behind her, her expression vacant, her movements stiff, like a puppet on invisible strings. "Mama." Ayanna reached out, but her mother's lips moved with Leclerc's voice. "You should have let me burn." Ayanna screamed, the room twisted, the furniture warping, the very air rippling as if reality itself was coming undone. Leclerc reached into his pocket and pulled out another envelope. He handed it to her with a small, satisfied nod. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was not a contract, it was a death certificate, her own. Ayanna felt her heartbeat slow, her vision darkening as the realization hit her. The contract had never been about rewards, it had been about replacing him. As darkness consumed her, Leclerc's voice echoed in her ears. A debt must always be paid. And then, nothing. The next morning, a black car sat outside another house, its window rolling down as a suited man stepped out, knocking on a door. Inside, a girl named Olivia opened it, staring in confusion at the strangers on her porch. Miss Olivia Harper. The man smiled. We represent Miss Ayanna Brooks. She wishes to speak with you. And the cycle began again.